Hello, everyone. This is Shattering Ceilings with Melissa Watson Ward. This is our first podcast, y'all. I'm so excited to be here on the Arena SC and to have my first guest be Charleston Sheriff Kristin Graziano. So we're going to just talk a little bit with Sheriff Graziano about her role as sheriff, and particularly this month is Pride Month. So we're going to talk a little bit about pride also. So I'm so happy to have you with us today, Sheriff. Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you, Melissa, my emerged sister, for doing this and really highlighting women. It's something that we've not done well in the past that we need to start doing, and we need to start celebrating who we are and the achievements that women have had across this state and this country. So thank you for that.
Thank
Yes. So
you.
as you said earlier, I am Sheriff Kristin Graziano. I was elected back in 2020 in Charleston County, the second largest agency in the state and running the largest detention center in the state of South Carolina. I defeated a 32-year incumbent, been in place for quite some time, not just as the incumbent sheriff, but also in this realm of law enforcement for a very, very long time. And it has been an honor, an absolute honor to serve this last 3.5 years. I'm up for reelection, obviously, in a couple months, and I look forward to what the future brings for this area and also for women in our profession.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to highlight women. So often our voices are not heard, even though we are the majority of the population. And there are some amazing women in South Carolina doing some amazing things. So before I get deep into the serious question, a lighthearted question for you. I want to know, who are your people? Who do you find community with? And for me, to give you an example of how I would answer that question, serial plant killers are my people. I cannot seem to keep my plants alive. I love them. I love them. I love having plants in the house, but I cannot keep them around or alive. So those are people who I feel like they're my people. They understand me. They like plants, but they just do not have a green thumb. So who are your people?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question because you really don't know who your people are until you are out there and figuring it
Hmm.
out. It's people that I find comfort in when I'm in this public arena or private arena, for that matter,
Hmm.
that we know without speaking that we have that what where who we are, and we know without speaking to one another the challenges that we've overcome, and we
Yes.
just find comfort in that space without even
Yeah.
saying it.
Yes, it's so important to find community, especially with the work that we do. It can feel very isolating, to serve in leadership roles and to serve as a woman. It can be very isolating. So finding community with others is important. And speaking of serving, how has it been so far to serve as sheriff?
Well, again, I'll say it's been the honor of a lifetime, and also quite a privilege to be in the space that I'm in. I find that I think there's some things that shock me more each and every day about the politics of being where you are, and learning how to spend that political capital that you've built up. It's quite common these days to see people abuse that privilege, and I see it. I honestly see it, but in my DNA, it doesn't allow it. So I think learning how to use that political capital to move the needle forward is something I'm still learning, um, and I really rely on those folks that that I can trust to help guide that.
Yeah, and you're not new to this. You're true to this because
Yeah.
you have decades of service in law enforcement. So, in your role in law enforcement, what do you see as the critical issues impacting your community from your position in law enforcement?
Yeah, you're right. So I have been in this for about 36, 37 years, going into my 37th year. And as in what you're seeing around the country with substance use disorder,
Hmm.
homelessness, and violent crimes, we're seeing at a smaller scale here in Charleston. And we know that to solve these problems, they're solvable, by the way. To solve these problems, it takes a holistic approach. You can't just look at it from a law enforcement perspective. You can't just look at it as a mental health perspective, from a mental
Mm-hmm.
health perspective. You can't look at it as a substance use disorder perspective. It really takes all of us to work on this greater program, and having leaders that identify those issues and then understand that it's not just putting a Band-Aid on it by doing your part. It's also engaging those folks who you are service providers to do their part and holding them accountable, because the responsibility is shared. And as a sheriff, I'll tell you this: it's been an awesome responsibility and a unique opportunity to get to the root causes, and identifying those root causes. You're a plant killer, you get this. So identifying the root causes of what causes these problems to keep them from being a problem to begin with is really
Right.
collectively what we should be doing as a community and a society. And as a sheriff, I'm able to do that because I have this unique responsibility when people break the law and are put into my care through the detention center. Now I have this unique responsibility to restore them and get them where they need to be so
Right.
that they're better when they leave. And we know statistics tell us that's the way to do it, and because it's safer for the community and it saves money. But I have the ability to make those decisions and not have
Yeah.
anyone else impact those decisions. I can bring all those resources right to that person in one place. And it's a unique, you could say, a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity to restore folks and make them better, so when they do leave our facility and go back into these communities, whether they're suffering from mental health disorder or substance use disorder or just homelessness or something of that to that effect, being poor. Apparently that, you
Yeah.
can be criminalized for being poor in this country. So it allows us to work on all of that under that umbrella, remove those barriers, and then make that person whole again. And it has been a tremendous labor of love.
I'm sure. I mean, you are in an interesting situation in the sense that you have to balance safety and justice for the victim, preventing obviously the crimes on the safety side, but justice for the victim with also, in a sense, justice for the perpetrator. I don't think people, for the most part, want to do bad things. I don't think they for the most part, want to break the law, for the most part. But we do have people that end up in those situations. So I agree with you that showing some love and compassion and figuring out how do you restore the victim to what they were before that crime took place, but how do you also balance, punishment for the perpetrator, but also putting them in a situation where they won't reoffend. So I think it's an interesting balance there to find yourself in. And you've done some of that with some restorative justice and bringing in some resources, as you mentioned, to the county. I think you've had some college graduates and some other interesting programs going on there to really help make sure that the individuals who are perpetrating these crimes don't reoffend.
Yeah, I like to consider myself, I guess, the gap filler, in this
Mm-hmm.
community. When people come into your care, learning what their stories and why they did what they did, is helpful. The underlying
Mm-hmm.
the root causes, but also having them understand what the decisions they make. So you're right. We've
Right.
done some innovative programs that we knew would work if we did it right. It would take time, and we're seeing the benefits far sooner than we anticipated. And we
Yeah.
have 100% success rate for those that have finished our program, that have gone through all of the program, graduated, and then returned back to the community and have returned to facilities. So we not only 95% of the people in my care will go back into the community. The other 5% will be sentenced into another facility.
Right.
We're seeing the people that were successful in our program pay it forward in the facilities that they've gone to. Some have gone to
Wow.
state prisons, some have gone to federal, where they are mentoring now and starting programs like and running. These people are running the programs that is that is being modeled in these other facilities because of who they become. So when you talk about,
Yeah.
I had this mental block saying, oh, when somebody's over 27 years of age, based on just statistics, you can't change their way of thinking. That's pretty much who they are. And I found that not to be true, especially with the people that have been successful in our program, because we've had, 45-year-olds and 18-year-olds change their behavior and now are modeling this behavior, not only in the facilities, but in our community. We have folks that are in great paying jobs, that soft handoff that we created into the community, being restored, understanding why they did what they did and changing their behavior through cognitive behavioral therapy, which is mandated part of the program. It really treats the entire individual and the family. And it's critical when you're talking about restorative practices. We see it in the school district now, where they've brought restorative practices into schools, and how it's having a tremendous effect, a positive impact on not just the student, the academics, but also the family. So it's a lot less expensive, to be quite honest with, than to incarcerate somebody, than to put these programs in place on the front end. Again, I had this unique opportunity where I've removed that barrier of, where am I going to sleep tonight? What am I going to eat for dinner? How am I going to get from one place to another? Am I going to get medical treatment for a wound care or something like that? We've removed those barriers in our facility. The real test, Melissa, is when they get back in that community. Now, can we produce that continuum of care based on the partnerships that we've created in the community to make sure that they don't stumble, or if they have questions, or if they have concerns, or if they need a ride, or if they are just having a challenge and need to speak to somebody, that we give them the ability to do that, because that prevents them from coming back here.
Right. And I think that should be what our goal is to prevent crime from happening in the first place. I think some people have really taken a position of punitive, what can we do to punish? And while I think it's important to hold people accountable, we have to also make sure that once they are held accountable for the crime that they commit, that they don't reoffend, because we know that that's going to lead to more crime. And the more people that we can have as productive citizens as part of our community, the stronger our community is. So it sounds like you are really implementing some strong programs there that is showing, evidence that it's working to decrease crime in your community. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, crime is down in Charleston County, and morale really is up in our agency and in our detention center because of the successes we've had. We just this last week opened up our very first, it's called a character-based unit. And it's two new units. We haven't gone public with it yet because we're still in test phases with it. But it's about 80 people, right? About 85 to 90 people right now that are in indirect supervision units, and they've been given a privilege to be in these units. But they have chores, and they have things that checklists that they have to engage in services. They have to do certain things in that unit to stay there. And they don't have a CO breathing down their neck telling them when they can sleep or when they can eat. And, they have to take care of each other. And that part of that was because these folks have been identified as people that have been in our facility for some time that have never had an issue in our facility. So it allows our staff to put a more attention on the people that may need that extra attention. And secondly, we have created a restoration unit for mental health, and we are the only agency in the state that has done that inside a detention center, and that allows people to get restored back to mental health within 6 months. We have people waiting on bed space that have been with us years, waiting on bed space at the Department of Mental Health hospitals, only to stand trial for their crimes and to understand why they're standing trial. We are creating that here, and we're doing it out of necessity because it's really important once these folks are restored to get them back into the courtroom so they can have their day in court, make these victims whole of these crimes that they have committed or are accused of committing, and make sure that these folks understand the crimes that they're being accused of, and why they're in that facility, so that they can change that behavior or get the treatment they need. So it's out of necessity. It's a different way of thinking. We know by the numbers it's working. It's working. It's having it's working tenfold. And interesting statistic I'll throw at you just for our efforts in reducing adult illiteracy in a detention setting. We learned from the Barbara Bush Foundation. We were recognized this past summer in DC on the Senate floor for the work that we're doing to reduce adult illiteracy. In every year, adult illiteracy has a $3.2 trillion impact on the U.S. economy in the gross domestic product. So that is a huge number. And the more we chip away with the things that we can do to teach people, for instance, to read, get them education opportunities so that they can fill out an application, so they can have a job to go to, and care for their families, is huge. It's huge on economic, by the numbers. It's a huge impact. And we're doing it here, and we have a success rate of 100%, and nobody can say that. And you can't deny the numbers. We know it works.
So you are definitely leading with compassion, leading in a creative manner. You are the first woman sheriff in South Carolina. Do you think, and I know everything doesn't always come down to gender, but do you think being a woman has led to you leading in a different capacity, or how has being a woman impacted how you're serving?
So I want to say, yeah, it's probably just the way we are wired. A lot of women don't make, we get things done. And we talked about this like during our election.
Yes.
Women know how to get things done. We just don't make excuses. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can multitask. And I can be really tough on crime. Don't break the law in Charleston County.
Right.
I had a place to put you, but that doesn't mean I don't care for you when you get there. That doesn't mean I don't give you an opportunity to make it right and make it right for the victim. So we can do both. It seems to be this narrative across the country where you got to be tough on crime, and if you're tough on crime, you can't be nice to people. What? I mean, come on. Like you've heard the term you catch more flies with honey. Yeah, you do. And restoring people's dignity by calling them something different, calling them a resident rather than an inmate, restoring their sense of self-worth by calling them sir and ma'am, and making sure that we treat people with respect, and we don't just earn the respect, that we don't just demand it, we earn it, right? So we talk to people as if they're competent, smart, successful human beings, even though they made a mistake, and it really changes the way we interact with folks in our care. We don't just do that with people in our care. We do it in our community, because there's absolutely too much hate in this world and in this country. And a lot of the folks, 100% probably of the folks in my detention center, have some sort of trauma that they are going through. And so when we learn to teach them how to deal with trauma-focused therapy, and they learn why they are the way they are, they change their behavior. Yeah, it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for the majority of the people we deal with.
Yeah, and I was going to say, a lot of people, I was going to agree with you on that. A lot of people probably find themselves in those situations because of lack of love that they've received, lack of proper guidance they've received. So the fact that you're stepping in to provide that compassion, I think, is really, really important. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Pride Month. So, Sheriff, you hold two distinctions. You are the first woman sheriff and the first out LGBTQ plus sheriff in South Carolina. And so this month is Pride. What does Pride Month and Pride mean to you?
So the last few years, it's been really, really, really special because I'm a very private person. So I never wanted to be that poster on a flag, waving, just what I love, who I love. And I didn't think it was that big a deal. And I've always been very private. But I see now that other people who look like me and look like us kind of depend on our voice to
Mhm.
say it's okay. It's okay to be who you
Yeah.
are. It's okay to love who you love. And it's okay to be unapologetic about it. So Pride Month to me, and I want to get emotional first. Um, when I went to the opening for Pride, there was so much love in that space. And I deal with hate on a daily basis.
Mhm.
In this profession, it's not a day goes by, a week goes by, they don't get FU emails and, calling you names and just, you learn to laugh, you learn to take it on the chin, but um, the love that you experience when you go to events like this, but it's just people that care, that just want to be them, and they just want to be left alone. And knowing that I can be a voice for that is really, really, truly special. And yes, those are my people.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. We talked
Um,
about community earlier and how important it is to find community with people and the fact that you can be authentically yourself. I think that should be all of our goals. How do we put ourselves in a position where we can be authentically ourselves and surround ourselves by the people who love us and that community? So I'm glad that you have that community and have had the positive experience to counteract some of the negative experience that unfortunately you do have in your role. And the reality is, we know with people in leadership, you could be doing everything right and nobody's going to tell you thank you. But as soon as you do something wrong, your email box will probably blow up
yeah,
because everybody's going to blame you. So that unfortunately is that part of leadership, that you have to bear that burden of what's going on in your community, whether it's good or bad. And it's exciting to see that you're doing so many good things for your community. And if nobody has told you thank you, I'm going to tell you thank you,
thank you.
because we know that that work really does matter. And so, going back to community, what is your overall vision for Charleston County?
Yeah, so you're going back to community. I mean, look, it's every day that I'm in the community and somebody says thank you. More people say
Mhm.
thank you than the hate that I get. But
Good.
and that's what keeps me going, really. That's what keeps me grounded. But knowing that, we're making the tough decisions. I don't know that we'll always get it right, but we try. And I definitely, my promise to my community has always been, I will always do my best and err on the side of what's fair and what's right. And I don't apologize for that. I don't know that I always get it right, but I do try to lead, yes, with compassion and common sense, but also understanding that the decisions I
Hmm.
make and the decisions we make as an agency affect people's lives. And that,
Hmm.
uh, you know, even when it comes to incarceration, you don't incarcerate the person. Sometimes you incarcerate the family. And we got to
Hmm.
keep these things in perspective, because really, if there's an alternative
It's
way to
fun.
get it right, and make this community, keep this community safe, we're going to
Same.
find that way. And I think having the ability as the sheriff to have those, to make those decisions, and understand that, you know that our focus is the safety and well-being. We have a wellness issue, in this community
Yeah.
everywhere, and so my focus is keeping the community well. Let's restore people back
Yeah.
to where they can be, so they can bring their best self forward every single day, and so that they look out for one another. And I think just this week in the character unit, I've seen that we've lost one person out of 80 something people, that, probably wasn't quite ready to be in that space,
Yeah.
but doesn't mean we're going to discard them. That means they're going
Right.
back to where they were, and we're going to help them get to where they need to be. But I think people need to feel some sense of self-worth, whether it's a victim or whether it's somebody that has maybe victimized somebody. It all comes down to inside of that person, and how can we help make that person whole. People always say, it's not your job to get people off the street that are homeless. No, it's not, but we've done it. And just because we can is why we should.
So you are just such an amazing leader. Are there any women in your life, or nationally or internationally, that have really inspired you, that you model your leadership after, or have inspired you to get to the place where you're at in your life?
Yeah, yeah. So I would tell you this. I have so many women throughout my life that I've admired, from coaches who kept me on the straight and narrow, because I didn't have a family, normal family upbringing like a lot of folks. I was on my own at the age of 16. But people, when you put people in your corner, and mine for the most part have been women, coaches, friends, colleagues that surround yourself with people that want you to be successful, not that people that want you to fail. And when you do that, you build this sense of self-worth. When I was younger, I was, fake it till you make it, because I didn't have a pot to piss in, and I just didn't. I had nothing, but I felt and I acted like $1,000,000, and because I was told, fake it till you make it, because people want to see you be successful. Then you are successful if you want to be. And then, using those lessons. I see single moms out here just grinding it out, taking care of kids, going to work, going to school, taking care of household responsibilities. I see nurses and people in the medical profession, doctors who are just in these male-dominated professions, and military women who are just brave enough, just brave enough to say, I'm going to do this. And those are my heroes. Stepping in that arena and saying that I'm going to do this, and I don't care what it takes. We're going to succeed. Those are the people that we should be lifting up, because they're the real
You're right.
heroes.
You're right. You're definitely right. So my last official question for you is, we have hopefully a lot of people listening to this podcast, and some may be seeking some advice or some unsolicited advice. So what would be some advice that you would give to any women who are out there listening right now?
Yeah, I would say this: be true to yourself, be authentic, be who you are, and don't be afraid of it. Be unapologetic, because look, I stepped into the political arena not wanting anything to do with politics. I was so turned off by the toxicity and what we've been seeing across the nation. I used to be pretty engaged, early on, and it was finding my passion about wanting to help people and figuring out a way to get there. Um, and then jumping off the bridge and saying, I'm going to do this. Don't be afraid to take risk and take chances when you know it's the right thing within you to do. And again, I could not and would not have done this without the support of people that want you to succeed. And
Mm-hmm.
so surrounding yourself with people that believe in you, that you believe in each other, that you lift each other up, and making sure that you stay hyper focused, especially on the political arena, on your message and what you want to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish, because it's easy today, Melissa, to get sidetracked by the chaos around us, and to be misled by the false narratives that are being pushed out there. But the truth in all we do is in our work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so allow that work to happen, allow that work to shine and speak for you. And don't be afraid to speak up, and be authentic to who you are. I think that's the only advice I could give. That was not the advice I was given when I went into politics.
Yeah.
I was told to go along to get along, and I said, with all due
Mm-hmm.
respect, I wasn't elected to do that. So I'm going to have to
Good.
respectfully decline that advice, and I'm going to move in a direction that is, I think, more beneficial for all.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you didn't follow that advice and you've been willing to take risks and take chances, because it sounds like it really is paying off for the citizens of Charleston. So, to my Charleston listeners out there, if you like what you've heard, you know what to do come November. Giving Sheriff Graziano 4 more years to really transform and continue to transform your community. This is an important role. Sheriff is an important role. And, these are some of the roles that we don't talk about in politics as much. We talk about the presidency, and the presidency is important, but also your sheriff really does impact your life. And it sounds like Sheriff Graziano is doing a good job of impacting the citizens of Charleston County in a positive manner. Sheriff, as we wrap up, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. I mean, Melissa, you were one of the first people I met when I jumped into this arena, and the assistance that y'all gave me,
Oh,
and support and a support network. Because women, it's tough. It's a tough network. It was designed by men. It was created by men. It's supported by men for the most part. Politics. It's harder for us to raise money. It's harder for us to get support, because with a man, you just have to say, "Hey, I'm running for this position." They'll, "Hey, great job. Let's go have a beer." But with the women, the first thing they ask is, "Are you qualified?" So there's such this double standard. So don't be afraid, y'all. Just don't be afraid to jump in and do what's right, and support folks that are trying to do the right thing. And you can visit my website, KristinForSheriff.com, and look at the long list. It's way too many to name, but we've shattered records here in the state. We're the first agency in the state to do a lot of things. Our education is one of them. Graduating folks with college degrees, graduating regularly having high school diplomas and GEDs being granted to folks. There's a lot of stuff. So, but we're going to continue. We've done this in 3.5 years, and we're going to continue this trend, and we're going to make this community better than it's ever been. And we're going to continue on that trajectory with the support of the community. And I thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you. We are so proud of the work that you're doing and hope to see you for more years continuing this work. So thank you, Sheriff Graziano, for joining us today on the Shattering Ceilings podcast. For all of my listeners, please subscribe, particularly if you want to hear more content from newsworthy, history-making women across the state who are shattering glass ceilings. So subscribe and join us again next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much.
Thank you.